Okay, so hi and welcome to our second interview section of today's show, which is with David Ramsey, who is based in London, and we're here with him now. Just like before, we're going to ask David to introduce himself, so we don't do a less good job of it. So David, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm David. I'm 37. I'm a DJ in North London, North East London. Kind of been DJing since 2020, professionally, quote unquote. But I've kind of been DJing at home personally since like 2016, so maybe 6-7 years. Kind of played at various parties and venues across London. I started playing for a party called Homostash in Dalston Superstore. I played at Repost, I played for a promoter called Recon, and I've also played at Unfold, which is really good fun. So,
personal highlight.
Yeah, personal highlight.
And for me too. Yeah.
I think we're going to say something along the lines of you being fold or unfold royalty.
Well, no, I mean, it's just because I'm there quite a lot, so and I'm very tall, so if you go to Unfold, you'll see me.
Yeah, it is actually really important to say just how tall David is, and you can literally spot him on any dance floor, which is why he is known. But yeah.
So we've been kind of exploring the theme of authenticity in this particular show, and we're just interested in kind of hearing your thoughts about it. But first of all, we're also interested in thinking about how you consider yourself in relation to kind of club scenes in London. So do you consider yourself to be part of any club scenes in London?
Yeah, I guess so. I think, as Alex said, you can always see me in certain clubs. I'm very visible, and I go clubbing quite a lot, not just DJing, but enjoying kind of club scenes, and I make a lot of friends. You kind of get to know people, so I kind of feel like I've become part of a scene over the last couple of years, certainly.
So would you say you were like a clubber first, and then the DJing came after? Were you like a clubber for a long time?
Oh yeah, not massively actually. I didn't used to go clubbing much in my 20s. I used to kind of go out occasionally. Mm-hmm. But not kind of frequently. And then I guess I started going out more in like 2015, 2016, and then became interested in DJing and started kind of DJing alongside. I was very interested in house music, and I'd go and watch DJs and I'd kind of be like, how on earth did they do that? That's kind of crazy. Just kind of very curious about how they kind of create sounds and create moments on the dance floor which kind of make people go crazy. And yeah, kind of was doing it for a couple of years. And then I think 2020 actually, during the pandemic, ironically, there was lots of kind of online DJ streams. And I got asked by a friend who was working for the Queer Archive in Athens to do a 1 hour set online. And because of that, I got noticed by the Homostash promoter. And then got my first gig in December 2020 when it was like tier 2. You could go and sit down raves. You couldn't stand up and dance, but it was still a good opportunity.
Great.
Okay, so I think this second question kind of speaks to something you said there about, what you were impressed by as a clubber yourself was watching DJs create those like moments or sounds that make people go crazy. And I think that's kind of what we're getting at when we talk about authenticity. So kind of with that in mind, like what you just said, what do you see as authentic about the clubs that you attend?
I think nightclubs and dance floor spaces are primarily spaces where people can kind of come together, but and a space where people can express themselves freely, kind of in a way that you might not necessarily be able to do kind of in day-to-day life. And if you think about like the history of where kind of house music, techno music came from Chicago and Detroit, and it was primarily a space where kind of queer, trans, people of colour came together specifically because of kind of what life was like, and those spaces were there to allow people to kind of come together and have enjoyment and fun and kind of connect. And that's kind of like, for me, what an authentic kind of dance floor experience is the way you can kind of come together, you can kind of connect with people feel free and just kind of enjoy themselves. And yeah, I think that's quite important to kind of have I guess the word is vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere where you can kind of really enjoy that kind of community.
Yeah, and so like when you're thinking about that vibe, you talked about like people coming together. Like, is there anything else you see as like needing to come together, like to create that?
Well, yeah, I guess so. A club facilitates that coming together. The club and the club space, and I guess there's lots of elements. I mean, music is important, because if the music's not good, then you don't have a good energy. So yeah, good music is important. So you need DJs who enjoy music and kind of want to be there as well. I guess you need a club space that understands kind of the importance of the people in the space and ensuring that everybody's comfortable in that space. So that's kind of another important element. And I guess as well, from kind of like the DJ music perspective, the promoters and clubs need to ensure that they have the right kind of DJs, the right music, but they're kind of incentivized to be there. They're kind of being remunerated fairly, and they have time to prepare. So I guess there's kind of many different kind of qualities, but it's also kind of maybe a bit of a dark art. Like I think there are many clubs that try and kind of fail, and club nights that maybe take a long time before kind of things kind of become right. So yeah, there's kind of lots of things, I guess.
It's interesting that you mentioned, first of all, one thing that struck me was that when I was doing the People on Dance Floors project, I was interviewing people and asked the question, what do dance floors mean to you? The answer that they kind of often gave me was along the lines of what you were talking about before, a space to come together, freedom, community, etc. But then when you start thinking about the space and the clubs, it becomes more complex, because obviously it's dark art, like you said. I love that expression. So just to kind of go a little bit further with that, what kind of makes a good club space, and kind of how does the kind of peripheral club experience, how a peripheral club retains status and retains something and delivers something good, like an authentic experience, compared to maybe something more mainstream. So kind of losing authenticity, losing the vibe, like you said.
I guess as things grow, I think one of the main things is remembering kind of why you did it in the first place. Why you wanted to create this space, and kind of not losing focus of that kind of ideal. Trying to not get too lost in the business side of things, which can be difficult because the music industry is a business to a point. Well, not to a point, but it is a big business, a kind of a big business. But if you kind of focus too much on that, about trying to just make lots of money, then maybe you're going to kind of lose kind of the why you were doing it in the first place. I think it's important as well to kind of champion like local DJs, new talent, which kind of can help keep things fresh, can help kind of bring new music ideas to your night. Another important thing.
Yeah. Well, I think this next question perhaps like follows on from what you just said about it being important to remember why you did something in the first place, which you linked to like ensuring you're kind of still connected to your you know specific community in the way that you like look to like maybe emerging DJs from that community, or like you know people in the space to be part of the club, whether that's as DJs or perhaps as like welfare officers like we talked about in the last episode, or you know working the bar, just like working the door, like just members of that community kind of still being included in that space. So kind of zooming out a bit now, and I think this also links to, you know, you briefly touched on like the history of house music and techno, so that might be relevant here too. But our question next is, how do whiteness and masculinity like shape or perhaps organise the nightlife spaces or scenes you attend, or the ones that you play at? And also, how do you experience this organisation yourself as a club goer and or DJ?
Well, obviously, like we talk about history of house and techno and how it's very marginalised communities, you know, people of colour, etc. But I mean, this was like in the 80s and 90s. Nowadays, like the music industry, club industry is an industry. It's kind of a big industry. So they'll kind of pander a lot to how they can make money because they're a business. So that can kind of change and direct promoters and how they, you know, the sorts of parties that they want to create, because if you want to make lots of money, then you're going to kind of make a party that's for people who've got the most money, who are going to kind of pay, you know, the higher entrance fees, etc. But that can kind of dilute what your party is, especially if your party then becomes quite homogenous. It doesn't kind of represent, you know, a broad spectrum of society, or certainly kind of a broad spectrum of kind of queer people, because kind of queer people are not just white masculine people. So yeah, I think it's important to have a space that's welcoming for kind of all people, because again, that's kind of what the whole point of a dance floor is. If it's exclusive, then you're not gonna, it's just gonna be different.
So talking about like the importance of a space that feels welcoming, can you reflect at all on, you know, in your experience of attending club nights, what is it that would make you feel welcome in a space personally, or like what might make you feel like the opposite, more unwelcome?
I think clubs need to have like very clear policies, very visible policies about kind of behaviours which are acceptable and which are not acceptable, I think. Because when you're not explicit about the behaviours that are not acceptable, or things are kind of not policed, or there are not places or people you can go to where you do feel uncomfortable, it's very easy to find, to see situations where you can feel uncomfortable, or where friends are uncomfortable, especially for, you know, women or female presenting people, I think, in club spaces, where they can be quite, you know, macho or masculine. I've been in certain clubs where I've seen women, you know, being kind of constantly harassed just by men who are just there to basically try and have sex with women, and it's like, well, that's crazy. In some ways I feel privileged that I don't have to put up with that personally, but I still don't want to be in a space where people don't feel comfortable. And I think that's quite common. I think that's partly more widely to do with society and kind of how people treat each other, or the lack of respect people have. But for me, that's really don't enjoy spaces where everybody's not valued equally. So I think it's important that clubs, are very, very, very clear about what behaviours are acceptable, what are not acceptable, and they're going to have ways that they can deal with, you know, people who are, you know, kind of threatening that space.
Yeah. Can you like think of, I mean, I don't know if you can, so like don't worry if you can't, but can you think of any examples of clubs you've attended like in recent years where that has been done effectively, like where, you know, you feel like behaviours are being kind of perhaps like, I wanted to say policed, but that feels like the wrong word, but like being you know, like responded to in ways that like seem useful?
Yeah, I guess certain clubs that have, well, I guess A, policies, but B, kind of ways that they communicate to people that they can reach out, whether that be kind of on social media or by saying that we've got somebody wearing this particular bit of clothing, come speak to them, or, you know, speak to somebody at the bar. I think that, yeah, there are some clubs that do make an effort. I think it's difficult, especially when, you know, your club is busy. But I think there certainly are kind of venues, promoters that do make an effort. I think there are some that maybe could make more of an effort. But yeah, I think there certainly are some clubs that do.
I was just thinking back to the discussion we had before about how when people own clubs or run clubs, are really invested, clubbers or DJs who are really passionate about kind of nurturing scenes, that their kind of entire organizational framework might, you know, very much reflect the fact that they are clubbers and DJs first, and therefore that transpires into the way that the clubs are run, versus maybe a more corporate model of clubbing where the owners are, you know, very detached and kind of uninterested in what sort of happens on the ground. And we were talking about Fold a lot as an example of a good club, I guess. But yeah, I think I don't know. So like your words made me reflect a lot in terms of kind of whiteness and masculinity, and not just shaping the experience, but also being sort of driven by profit as well. So then, and the repercussions of that, not just on kind of the clubbing experience, but also on DJs and fees, and, you know, who gets to play where, and how much people get paid. And I'm not necessarily saying that it is just about whiteness and masculinity, but it certainly does, that it still seems to be quite, I don't know, dominant in the way that, I don't know, the hierarchy of electronic dance music globally operates. But I think, I guess, the next question is really about kind of centering your own kind of desires and wishes when it comes to thinking about your own club night, which is called
Yes, babe.
Yes, babe. Yes, babe. So what do you think has been kind of important aspects for you to consider in thinking about this club night of yours?
So for me, it was really trying to hark back to what is important in a club space, and it really was that kind of community, and well, I think supporting quiz is kind of like one of the ideals. I mean, the name Yes Babes comes from a friend who uses it as a term of endearment, sometimes on the dance floor, to other DJs or to friends, or sometimes just in a voice note, just as a way of kind of uplifting their friends. And I really like that phrase, and I really like that kind of the idea of people coming together to kind of support each other. And it's also, it's kind of like not serious as well. A lot of like kind of nights are like serious. So I just wanted to have something that's kind of like not serious. So yeah, I wanted to have an idea of this space where people come together. I really wanted to hark back to the kind of origins of dance music and why people were coming together in the first place, and kind of trying to get away from this kind of more consumeristic kind of like dance industry. I wanted to, and I want to have kind of a space where I can kind of maybe champion local talent, also to kind of have a more diverse lineup as well. And also, I think for me, it was a way of having a way of having a creative output, or a space where I can kind of be a bit more creative with the music that I play, not being so prescriptive, playing to particular crowds or particular promoters, but kind of creating something that I wanted to listen to and I enjoyed, playing. So yeah, yes, babes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, babes.
So that was like a really nice like summary of like what you feel is important in like, putting this club night on. Have you encountered kind of any challenges in so I assume you've kind of been starting to plan and talking to venues and security and all these things to consider. Like, have you encountered any challenges that you feel are making it more difficult to for you to do what you want to do?
Well, for me, it's the first time I've ever promoted anything.
Yeah.
So I think the challenges is just kind of everything is new and kind of unknown, and having to be a bit of a jack of all trades, kind of not just the DJ, but kind of liaising with venues, looking at kind of like setups, the whole business side of things, making sure that I can cover costs and kind of pay people, working out kind of the economics of it. I want to kind of have a club night where DJs get kind of paid the same, not having tiers of kind of like payments, but everybody gets paid kind of fairly. But obviously managing that with the costs and like ticket pricing, like marketing, promotion, coming up with concepts and artwork, which is kind of quite alien, something I've never really done before. So I think generally it's just been a bit of a challenge, but also something that's quite interesting, definitely a learning curve. But I think part of me just kind of go for it. It might be a complete flop, or it might be lots of fun, who knows. But let's just kind of give it a go and see how it goes.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, we'll obviously be linking lots of promotional materials to this club night, so yeah, look out for it. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be amazing, obviously, but I am one of David's biggest fans. I want that to be officially said on the radio that I am David's #1 fan, and no one can argue with me here, so I'm saying it, I'm calling it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely gonna come as well, so I'm excited. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's been really interesting, and it sent my neurons in all sorts of different directions.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, because we're such novices at the radio, whether we're going to have already played David's mix or whether we're going to play David's mix after. But either way, the show is going to contain David's mix. So very excited for that too. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you, David.
It was great to chat with you.